The arsenal deck of the Convergence stretched nearly 200 meters from end to end, filled with enough weapons to arm a small planetary militia. Weapons Master Krelvor stood behind his reinforced counter, his 4 arms moving in practiced efficiency as he processed the morning's equipment requests. The Tessian had worked this post for 7 years and prided himself on matching the right weapon to the right soldier. His facial tendrils twitched as he scanned the next assignment on his datapad. A new human recruit, Marcus Webb, transfer from the independent vessel Wayfarer, classified as Infantry Specialist. Krelvor pulled up the human species file from the Galactic Mercenary Guild database. Medium strength classification, endurance-focused biology, gravity tolerance 1.2 standard. Nothing remarkable. The database recommended standard loadouts, plasma rifles, light armor plates, monoblades for close combat. Krelvor gathered the equipment and arranged it on the counter just as the human arrived. Marcus Webb stood perhaps 6 feet tall by human measurements, with a dark skin and lean muscle common to his species. He wore the plain gray jumpsuit of unassigned crew. "Welcome to the Convergence," Krelvor said, his translator rendering the words in Standard Galactic. "I am Weapons Master Krelvor, and I have prepared your standard infantry loadout." Marcus stepped up to the counter and examined the equipment with polite interest. He lifted the plasma rifle, checked its weight distribution, then set it down. He tested the armor plates, flexing them slightly. The monoblade received a careful inspection. "This is quality gear," Marcus said. "I appreciate the care you took." Krelvor's tendrils relaxed slightly. Many species showed little respect for the armory staff. "You have combat experience?" Krelvor asked. "Asked. 3 years with the Wayfarer crew," Marcus replied. "Mostly boarding actions and station defense contracts." "Then you will find our operations similar," Krelvor said. "The Convergence handles planetary deployments, so you may encounter heavier resistance than boarding actions." Marcus nodded, still looking at the equipment. Then he glanced past Krelvor toward the back of the arsenal deck. "Is there anything heavier available?" Marcus asked, "in case the situation calls for it." Krelvor's tendrils stiffened in surprise. Most infantry soldiers wanted lighter gear, not heavier. "You wish for additional weight?" Krelvor asked. "I can carry more if needed," Marcus said. "My last crew sometimes had me haul extra ammunition or crew-served weapons." Krelvor considered this. Humans did have notable endurance, according to the files. Perhaps this one wanted to prove himself valuable. "Well," Krelvor said, "follow me to the specialist weapons section." He led Marcus past rows of standard equipment toward the back corner of the arsenal deck. Here stood the weapons that required special training, unique biology, or multiple operators. Krelvor gestured toward a massive kinetic warhammer mounted against the wall. The weapon stood 8 feet tall, its head a solid block of compressed alloy designed to deliver devastating impact force. "This is the Thundermaul," Krelvor explained. "It is a dual-operator weapon, typically used by Krovan heavy worlders working in tandem." Marcus approached the weapon, studying it with genuine interest. A placard beside the mounting read, "Dual operators required. Gravity compensation unit mandatory. Mass 470 kilograms." "2 people to use it?" Marcus asked. "Yes," Krelvor confirmed. "The Krovan are from a high-gravity world and possess exceptional strength, but even they require paired operation for combat mobility. The gravity compensation unit reduces effective weight by 40%. Marcus reached out and touched the weapon's handle. "May I try lifting it?" he asked. Krelvor's tendrils went completely rigid. "The mounting clamps are electromagnetic," he said carefully. "Even with them released, the mass is considerable." "I understand," Marcus said. "I just want to see if I could manage it in an emergency." Krelvor hesitated, then decided there was no harm in letting the human embarrass himself with a failed attempt. He reached over and deactivated the magnetic clamps. The Thundermaul remained upright in its mounting bracket, held now only by gravity. Marcus gripped the handle with his right hand. He lifted. The massive warhammer rose smoothly off its bracket. Marcus held it at shoulder height for a moment, then lowered it to the ground. Controlled precision. He switched to a two-handed grip and lifted again, this time bringing the weapon to a ready position. He tested its balance, shifted his weight, then performed a slow practice swing. The Thundermaul moved through the air with ponderous momentum. Krelvor stood frozen, all four arms hanging limply at his sides. His facial tendrils had gone completely pale. "This is well balanced," Marcus said, lowering the weapon, "though I would need a carrying strap since that dual-operator harness won't fit me." Krelvor began, then stopped. "The gravity compensation unit is not active." "I noticed," Marcus said. "Is that a problem?" "The weapon masses 470 kilograms, Krelvor said, his voice rising. "Without gravity compensation, it should be impossible for a human to lift." Marcus looked down at the Thundermaul, then back at Krelvor. "Oh," he said. "Well, I grew up on Earth, which has higher gravity than most civilized worlds. We are rated for 1.2 standard gravity, and our muscles developed for endurance and sustained effort. 470 kilograms is heavy, sure, but manageable for short periods." Krelvor's mind raced through the implications. The Krovan needed two operators, not just for strength, but for the weapon's unwieldy size and the coordination required during combat. This human had just lifted it solo, without assistance, without enhancement, with casual ease. "I need to report this," Krelvor said. "Report what?" Marcus asked. "You lifted a dual-operator weapon designed for heavy worlders," Krelvor said, "as if it were luggage." "I mean, it is kind of like luggage," Marcus said, "just really heavy luggage." Other crew members had begun to notice the commotion. A pair of Velic scouts stopped to stare. Marines approached to see what was happening. Word spread quickly through the arsenal deck and into the corridors beyond. Within minutes, a crowd had gathered. "Lift it again," someone called out. Marcus shrugged and picked up the Thundermaul once more. This time he brought it to a combat-ready position and executed a full overhead strike, stopping the weapon just before it hit the ground. The demonstration was controlled, powerful, and performed by one human, operating alone. The crowd erupted in multiple languages. Krelvor heard disbelief, excitement, and more than a few accusatory questions about whether the human was using hidden enhancement technology. "I need to contact Captain Sorna," Krelvor said. "And someone fetch the medical scanner. We need to verify this human is unmodified." Marcus set the Thundermaul down carefully. "Am I in trouble?" he asked. "No," Krelvor said, his tendrils slowly unfurling, regaining their color. "But you have just invalidated several assumptions about human capability, and possibly created a significant tactical opportunity." The weapons master looked at the Thundermaul, then at Marcus, then back at the weapon. 7 years he had worked this arsenal deck. 7 years matching weapons to warriors based on species profiles and guild classifications. And now, a medium-strength human had just treated a dual-operator heavy weapon like a piece of luggage. The galaxy's understanding of human physiology, Krelvor realized, was about to require serious revision. The training deck occupied the Convergence's lower starboard section, a massive space designed to simulate combat conditions for 17 different species. Captain Sorna had cleared the deck for an impromptu demonstration after Krelvor's urgent report. Word had spread through the entire ship with remarkable speed. Now nearly 100 crew members lined the observation galleries, eager to watch the human who had apparently broken the laws of physics. Marcus stood in the center of the training deck, the Thundermaul resting against his shoulder. He felt uncomfortable with all the attention, but understood why the captain wanted a proper demonstration. Krelvor had spent the past hour insisting that what happened in the arsenal deck must have been a fluke or possibly sensor malfunction. Captain Sorna, a pragmatic Helion with silver-scaled skin and eyes that missed nothing, stood at the edge of the combat zone. Her voice amplified through the training deck speakers. "You will now demonstrate combat maneuvers with the Thunder Maul. Full combat simulation, threat level 6. Marcus nodded and took a ready stance. The training deck's holographic systems activated, projecting enemy combatants around him. Simulated Vrask raiders, heavily armored and aggressive. Marcus moved. The Thunder Maul swept through a wide arc, the holographic projector registering the impact zone and eliminating 3 simulated enemies. Marcus spun, using the weapon's momentum to carry into another strike. 2 more enemies down. He blocked an incoming attack with the hammer's shaft, then drove forward with a thrust that would have caved in armor plating. The simulation registered the kill. What made the crowd gasp was not just that Marcus could use the weapon, it was how he moved with it. The Thunder Maul required 2 Krovan operators because of coordination issues during rapid combat. One operator controlled positioning, while the other managed strike execution. Together they moved with careful synchronization. Marcus simply carried the weapon where it needed to go and swung it when targets appeared. He was faster than any dual-operator team because he did not need to coordinate with a partner. His movements had the fluid efficiency of solo combat. "Impossible," muttered a Krovan from the observation gallery. "He moves like it weighs nothing." That was not quite accurate. The Thunder Maul clearly had mass and momentum. Marcus used both to his advantage, letting the weapon's weight pull him into spins and using gravity to add force to downward strikes. After 5 minutes of continuous combat simulation, Marcus triggered the Thunder Maul's secondary function, the pile driver. This feature normally required both Krovan operators to activate simultaneously, triggering half of the firing mechanism. Marcus gripped the weapon with both hands and pressed both activation studs at once. The Thunder Maul's head shot forward on hydraulic pistons, delivering a focused kinetic strike that pulverized the reinforced combat dummy in front of him. The dummy, designed to withstand plasma rifle fire and blade strikes, simply shattered. Fragments of ballistic gel and composite armor scattered across the training deck. Captain Sorna raised one clawed hand. "Simulation end," she called. Marcus lowered the Thunder Maul and took several deep breaths. The weapon was heavy, and 5 minutes of constant combat had tested even his endurance. "Bring the medical scanner," Captain Sorna ordered. A Velix medic rushed forward with a portable bioscanner. The device hummed as it swept over Marcus from head to toe. Everyone watched the readout screen in silence. "No cybernetic enhancements," the medic said. Announced, "No genetic modifications detected. Bone density is elevated compared to species baseline, but within normal variance for high-gravity world natives. Muscle efficiency markers are standard human range. This individual is completely unmodified." The crowd erupted in noise again. The Krovan contingent looked personally offended. Several Tessian crew members demanded a recount. A group of Helion Marines simply started placing bets on what else the human could lift. Captain Sorna silenced them all with a sharp whistle. "Explain," she said to Marcus. "How does a species classified as medium strength manage this?" Marcus set the Thunder Maul down carefully before answering. "Earth has 1.2 times standard gravity," he began. "That is higher than 68% of civilized worlds in the Guild database. Humans evolved under that pressure for millions of years. Our bones are dense, our muscles are built for sustained effort, and our cardiovascular system is extremely efficient." He gestured at the Thunder Maul. 470 kilograms is heavy. Absolutely, he continued. But humans evolved as persistence hunters. We chased prey animals for hours, sometimes days, until they collapsed from exhaustion. Our biology is optimized for carrying loads over long distances and maintaining effort when other species would fail. To you, this weapon seems impossible for one person. To me, it is just heavy equipment that needs carrying. A Krovan warrior named Hult pushed forward from the crowd. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, with thick gray skin and arms like tree trunks. I have used the Thunder Maul for 6 campaigns, Hult said, his voice deep and rumbling. My partner Gren and I trained for months to achieve proper coordination. You insult our accomplishment by treating our weapon as a... Marcus raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. I mean no insult, he said. You and your partner clearly have skills and experience I do not possess. I can lift the weapon, yes, but that does not mean I can use it as effectively as a trained team. Prove it, Hult demanded. His partner Gren appeared beside him, equally massive and equally angry. Combat simulation, Gren said. You against us. Same scenario, same threat level. We see who performs better. Captain Sorna's eyes gleamed with interest. An excellent suggestion, she said. Marcus Webb, do you accept this challenge? Marcus looked at the 2 Krovan warriors. They were clearly skilled and experienced. This was their weapon, their specialty. He was just someone who happened to have the strength to lift it. But declining would seem cowardly. I accept, Marcus said, but I want to be clear. Replace you or diminish what you have accomplished. I just want to contribute to the crew however I can. Hult's expression did not soften. Words are empty, he said. Performance matters. We go first. Krelvor brought out the dual-operator harness and helped Hult and Gren attach it. The harness was a complex system of straps and counterweights that distributed the Thunder Maul's mass between 2 users. Once secured, the Krovan pair lifted the weapon together. They moved to the center of the training deck. Captain Sorna reset the simulation. Same parameters, she announced. Threat level 6, Vrask Raiders full combat scenario. The simulation began. Hult and Gren moved like a single organism. Hult controlled positioning, his powerful legs driving them forward or shifting laterally. Gren managed the strikes, his timing perfect and his aim devastating. They did not just fight. Flowed. Years of partnership show in every movement. When Hult stepped left, Gren was already adjusting the weapon's angle. When Gren swung, Hult was already planting their feet for maximum power transfer. They cleared the simulation in 4 minutes and 17 seconds. 0 damage taken. The crowd cheered. These were warriors at the peak of their craft. Marcus watched with genuine admiration. That was incredible, he said when they finished. Hult and Gren detached from the harness. Your turn, Hult said coldly. Marcus picked up the Thunder Maul again. He had no partner, no harness, no years of coordinated training. What he had was strength, endurance, and adaptability. The simulation began. Marcus fought differently than the Krovan team. He used the Thunder Maul's weight for momentum, spinning and pivoting to maintain continuous motion. Where Hult and Gren fought with precision, Marcus fought with force. Where they moved carefully, he moved quickly. He took hits that a dual-operator team would have covered for each other. His health readout dropped to 83%. But he was faster. Solo operators moved quicker than synchronized pairs. He cleared the simulation in 3 minutes and 51 seconds. Moderate damage taken. The crowd went silent. Marcus had been faster, but the Krovan had taken no damage. Captain Sorna looked at both performances, clearly calculating. Before she could speak, alarms blared throughout the convergence. Red emergency lights flooded the training deck. All hands to battle stations, the ship's AI announced. Vrask Raiders detected in system. This is not a drill. Captain Sorna's expression hardened. All crew to deployment positions, she ordered. This demonstration just became real combat. The Convergence shuddered as it maneuvered into defensive position above the mining colony Theta 7. Through the viewport in the deployment bay, Marcus could see the surface below, a dusty orange world, dotted with excavation sites and processing facilities. Somewhere down there, Vrask raiders were already landing. The briefing had been rushed, but clear. Vrask shock troops specialized in overwhelming defensive positions through sheer armored mass. Their exoskeletons could withstand standard plasma rifle fire. Kinetic weapons were more effective, which made the Thunder Maul suddenly very valuable. Marcus stood in the deployment bay with his assigned squad. The Thunder Maul leaned against the wall beside him. Across the bay, Hult and Gren stood with their squad, watching him with barely concealed hostility. Captain Sorna entered the bay, moving quickly between squads and making final adjustments to the deployment plan. Reached Marcus. She stopped. "Webb," she said quietly, "I am assigning you to Defense Point 7 with the Thunder Maul. Hult and Gren will deploy to Defense Point 3 with standard heavy weapons." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. "Captain," he began, "I do not want to take their weapon." "It is not about what you want," Sorna said bluntly. "It is about tactical efficiency. If one human can do the work of 2 Krovan, then I can deploy the 2nd Krovan elsewhere to strengthen a weak point. We are outnumbered 3-1. I need every advantage." Before Marcus could respond, Hult's voice boomed across the deployment bay. "Captain, I formally protest this assignment." Sorna turned to face the Krovan warrior. "Your protest is noted," she said. "You have 60 seconds to explain why I should change the deployment." Hult strode forward, Gren close behind him. "Weapon," Hult said. "We have bonded with it across 6 campaigns. We know its weight, its balance, its quirks. We have developed tactics specifically around its capabilities." Gren added, "The human passed a training simulation, yes, but he has never seen actual combat with the weapon. He took damage during a simple scenario. In real battle, that damage means death." Captain Sorna listened without expression. "Your points are valid," she said. "However, I saw both performances. Webb was faster and completed the objective in less time. In a defensive scenario where we are outnumbered, speed matters." "But Captain," Hult protested. Sorna raised one clawed hand. "I have made my decision," she said. Then she paused, her eyes moving between Marcus and the Krovan pair. "Unless," she said slowly, "you wish to settle this definitively." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked. "1 deployment," Sorna said. "Whoever performs better with the Thunder Maul in actual combat keeps it for future missions. Webb, if you fail or take critical damage, the weapon returns to Hult and Gren permanently. Hult and Gren, if Webb succeeds without your support, you acknowledge him as the primary Thunder Maul operator." The challenge hung in the air. Marcus wanted to refuse. This was not what he wanted at all. He did not come to the Convergence to steal another crew's pride. But Hult spoke first. "Agreed," the Krovan said. Gren nodded. "Agreed." All eyes turned to Marcus. He looked at the Thunder Maul, then at Captain Sorna, then at the 2 Krovan warriors who were watching him with hard expressions. "I agree," Marcus said quietly, "but I want everyone to know. I respect what you have accomplished. This is not about proving you wrong." Hult's expression did not change. "Words are empty." Repeated. "Performance matters." "Deployment in 5 minutes," the bay coordinator announced. The squads began moving toward their assigned dropships. Marcus hefted the Thunder Maul onto his shoulder. Without the dual operator harness, he simply carried it like an oversized rifle. Other crew members stared as he passed. He heard whispers in multiple languages. "Like luggage," someone muttered, "just hauling it like luggage." The dropship ride was tense and silent. Marcus's squad consisted of 2 Velix scouts, 3 Helian Marines, and a Tessian combat engineer. None of them spoke to him. They all knew about the challenge, and clearly had opinions about a newcomer taking a veteran crew's signature weapon. The dropship hit atmosphere with a violent shudder. 60 seconds to landing, the pilot called. Marcus checked his weapon one last time. The Thundermaul was ready. Himself. The dropship's rear hatch blew open, and the squad poured out onto Theta 7's dusty surface. Defense Point 7 was a fortified ridge overlooking one of the main approach routes to the mining facility. Already, Marcus could see Vrask raiders advancing in the distance. Heavy armored figures moving in formation. Positions, the Helion squad leader barked. The team spread out along the ridge, taking cover behind reinforced barriers. Marcus moved to the center position, where he would have the widest firing arc. The Thundermaul felt heavy in his hands. Not impossibly heavy. Just heavy enough to remind him that this was real. The Vrask came in a wave. Dozens of armored soldiers rushing forward under covering fire from their own support weapons. Plasma bolts sizzled past Marcus's position. The Helion Marines returned fire with their rifles. Energy weapons scored hits on the Vrask armor, but failed to penetrate. "They are too heavily armored," one Marine shouted. "Webb," the squad leader called. "That hammer better work." Marcus stepped out from cover. The first Vrask raider was 20 meters away and closing. Marcus swung the Thundermaul in a wide horizontal arc. The weapon's mass and momentum combined with his strength to create devastating force. The Thundermaul connected with the Vrask's torso armor. The impact was spectacular. The raider flew backward, armor cracked and body broken. 3 more Vrask charged together. Marcus adjusted his grip and brought the Thundermaul down in a vertical strike. The ground shook. The lead Vrask went down hard. Marcus spun, using the weapon's weight to maintain momentum, and caught the second raider with the backswing. The third raider got close enough to fire. A plasma bolt seared across Marcus's shoulder. Pain flared, but his armor held. Marcus triggered the pile driver function. The Thundermaul's head shot forward and caught the Vrask square in the chest. The raider's armor shattered. For the next hour, Marcus fought in a blur of motion and impact. The Thundermaul became an extension of his body. Swing, strike, spin, repeat. The Vrask kept coming in waves. His squad provided covering fire and called out enemy positions. The Tessian engineer kept Marcus's armor functioning despite accumulating damage. But Marcus stood alone at the center of the defensive line. One human, one weapon, holding against overwhelming numbers. His muscles burned, his arms ached, sweat poured down his face, and his breathing came in ragged gasps. This was what the Krovan experienced, with 2 operators sharing the load. Marcus understood now why they insisted on paired operation. The weapon's weight was not impossible, but sustaining combat with it alone was brutal. A 4th wave of Vrask appeared over the ridge. Marcus counted at least 20 raiders. His squad had already taken casualties. 1 Velix scout was down. A Helion Marine was badly wounded. They could not hold against another full assault. "We need reinforcements," the squad leader shouted into his comm. "Defense Point 7 is about to be overrun." Marcus raised the Thundermaul one more time. His arms trembled with fatigue. This might be his last stand, but he would make it count. Then he heard a sound that made him look up. A dropship screaming overhead. Not reinforcements from the Convergence. A different ship, deploying 2 massive figures. Hult and Gren hit the ground in full combat gear. They had abandoned their assigned position and fought their way across the battlefield to reach Defense Point 7. The Krovan charged forward, their own weapons blazing. Took positions on either side of Marcus. "We call out targets," Hult shouted. "You swing that hammer." "We watch your back," Gren added. "You break their line." Marcus felt something shift in his chest. This was not about the challenge anymore. This was about survival, about warriors fighting together. Left flank, 3 incoming, Halt called. Marcus swung left. Thundermaul connected. Right side, 2 breaking through, Gren warned. Marcus pivoted right. Another devastating strike. The 3 of them became a unit. Not because they had trained together, not because they followed a plan, but because in the chaos of combat, they simply worked. Halt's eyes caught movement Marcus missed. Gren's covering fire created openings Marcus exploited. Marcus's strikes broke enemy formations that threatened his companions. They held the line, together. Withdrew. The ridge was littered with destroyed armor and scorched earth. Marcus stood with the thunder maul planted in the ground, using it to keep himself upright. His entire body shook with exhaustion. Halt and Gren approached slowly. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Halt began to laugh. Deep, rumbling, genuine laughter. The laughter echoed across the battlefield, incongruous among the wreckage and smoke. Marcus stared at Halt, uncertain whether the Krovan had lost his mind, or whether this was some kind of warrior tradition he did not understand. "You carried it," Halt said, between rumbling chuckles. "Across 17 combat zones, like luggage." Gren joined in the laughter. "No mounting rig," he said. "No gravity compensation. Just picked it up and hauled it to war." Marcus felt his own exhaustion-fueled laugh bubble up. It was absurd when stated that way. He had treated a dual-operator heavy weapon like an oversized suitcase. "I did not know what else to do with it," Marcus admitted. "The harness did not fit." Before the conversation could continue, the comm systems crackled to life. "All units, Vrask main force detected moving toward the central mining facility," Captain Sorna's voice announced. "Their scouting wave. All defensive positions, prepare for sustained assault." The moment of levity vanished. Marcus looked at his squad. The wounded Helion Marine was being treated by the Tessian engineer. The fallen Velic scout lay covered by a thermal blanket. They had barely held against the scouting force. A main assault would overwhelm their position completely. "Defense Point 7 cannot hold," Gren stated flatly. "We need to fall back to the secondary line," he added. "Or we need more Thundermauls," Halt said, looking at Marcus. "Since we only have one, we need to use it where it matters most." The squad leader contacted Captain Sorna for new orders. After a brief consultation, the decision was made. Defense Point 7 would be abandoned. All surviving personnel would fall back to the central facility where the main defensive line was forming. Marcus hoisted the Thundermaul onto his shoulder. His muscles screamed in protest, but he ignored them. The squad began their tactical withdrawal, moving quickly across the dusty terrain toward the facility 2 kilometers away. Halfway there, they encountered another squad in retreat, then another. The Vrask had hit multiple defensive points simultaneously, overwhelming the outer perimeter. Everyone was falling back to the central facility. The mining facility itself was a complex of buildings and excavation equipment, surrounded by hastily constructed walls. Hundreds of crew members from the Convergence were taking positions. Engineers were setting up automated turrets. Medical teams were establishing triage stations. Captain Sorna stood at the command post, coordinating the defense with her usual calm efficiency. When she saw Marcus arrive with the Thundermaul, she nodded approvingly. "You held your position," she said. "Barely," Marcus replied. "Took significant damage." "But you held," Sorna repeated. "That is what matters." She turned to Halt and Gren. "You abandoned your assigned position," she said. There was no accusation in her voice, just statement of fact. "Yes, Captain," Halt said. "We determined that Defense Point 7 needed the support more than Point 3. We made a tactical decision in the field." Sorna studied the Krovan pair for a moment. "Your tactical decision likely saved Webb's life and prevented the early collapse of our eastern flank," she said. "Well done." She pointed to a section of wall that faced the main approach route. "All three of you will deploy there," she ordered. "Webb with the Thundermaul as primary striker, Halt and Gren as tactical support and cover. Work together like you did at Point 7. "Yes, Captain," all three responded in unison. They moved to their assigned position. Here was reinforced with composite plating and provided good cover. Behind them, the mining facility's main building offered a fallback position if the wall was breached. Around them, dozens of other warriors prepared for the coming assault. Marcus set the Thunder Maul down and flexed his aching hands. "How long can you maintain combat with that weapon?" Gren asked. It was a practical question, not a challenge. "Unknown," Marcus admitted. "I have never used it this extensively before. At Point 7, I was near my limit when you arrived." Holt nodded thoughtfully. "The weapon is designed for paired operation because sustained use alone is too demanding," he said. "Even for Kraven. We learned this during our first campaign. One operator can swing it, but two operators can fight all day." "So how do we maximize effectiveness with one operator?" Marcus asked. Gren looked at the Thundermaul, then at Marcus, then at the approaching dust clouds that marked the Vrask advance. "We change how you fight," Gren said. "Instead of constant engagement, you strike at critical moments. We hold the line with standard weapons. You break their formations when they mass for assault." It made tactical sense. Marcus would conserve his strength by staying in reserve until his unique capability was truly needed. "I can work with that," Marcus said. The dust clouds grew closer. Through battlefield scopes, Marcus could see the Vrask main force. It was massive. Hundreds of armored raiders, supported by heavy vehicles and mobile artillery. The outer defensive points had slowed them, but nothing had stopped them. Now they came for the central facility, with overwhelming force. "All positions, stand ready," Captain Sorna's voice rang across the defensive line. The Vrask opened fire from long range. Overhead, plasma bolts and kinetic rounds peppered the walls. The Convergence crew returned fire with everything they had. The battle became a maelstrom of noise and violence. Marcus crouched behind the wall with the Thunder Maul at his side. Halt and Gren fired their weapons steadily, picking targets and coordinating their fire. Minutes stretched into hours. The Vrask advanced in waves, each one breaking against the defensive wall, but pushing a little closer. The automated turrets ran out of ammunition. The wall began to crack under sustained fire. Casualties mounted. Then the Vrask changed tactics. Instead of steady advance, they massed their forces for a concentrated breakthrough attempt. 200 armored raiders formed up in a tight formation. They charged directly at Marcus's section of wall. "Webb," Halt shouted, "this is your moment." Marcus stood, lifting the Thunder Maul. Muscles protested, but responded. The weapon rose to ready position. "We will clear a path," Gren called. "You will break their charge." The two Krovan poured fire into the sides of the Vrask formation. Raiders fell, creating gaps in their tight ranks. The formation began to compress toward the center, exactly where Marcus waited. The Vrask hit the wall. Marcus swung. The Thunder Maul caught 3 raiders in one devastating arc. Their armor shattered, and they went down in a tangle of broken limbs. Marcus triggered the pile driver. The kinetic strike punched a hole through the Vrask front rank. He swung again, and again. Each strike broke their momentum. Each impact scattered their formation. Halt called out targets. Left side, officer coordinates. Marcus adjusted and struck. Gren warned. Right flank trying to surround. Marcus spun and caught them mid-approach. 3 warriors fought as one unit. Not through planned coordination, but through battlefield awareness and mutual trust. Halt's tactical mind. Gren's sharp eyes. Marcus's devastating strength. The Vrask charge broke. Raiders scattered in confusion. Their formation collapsed into chaos. Other sections of the defensive line pressed the advantage. The Vrask began to retreat. "Cease fire," Captain Sorna ordered. "All units hold position." The battlefield fell quiet, except for the moans of wounded and the crackle of damaged equipment. Marcus lowered the Thundermaul slowly. His entire body trembled. He had pushed past his limits and kept going through sheer determination. Now that the immediate danger had passed, exhaustion hit like a physical blow. He sat down hard, his back against the damaged wall. The Thundermaul leaned against his shoulder. "You did well," Halt said. "Exhausted, too." His armor was scored with plasma burns, and his breathing was heavy. "We all did," Marcus replied. Gren checked his weapon's power cell. "The Vrask are regrouping," he observed. "They will come again." "Then we will break them again," Marcus said. He meant it. Despite the pain and fatigue, he would stand and fight as many times as needed. Not because of the challenge with Halt and Gren, not to prove anything about human capability, but because this crew had become something more than just a mercenary company. They were warriors fighting together. A medical technician approached and scanned Marcus quickly. "You need treatment," the tech said. "Muscle strain, minor burns, dehydration. After the next wave," Marcus said. The tech started to argue, but Halt interrupted. "Treat him here," the Krovan said. "He will not abandon his position. None of us will." Sighed, and began applying emergency medical patches. The treatment helped, but Marcus knew he was running on borrowed time. One more major assault, and his body would simply give out. He looked at the Thundermaul. The weapon had served him well. But Halt and Gren were right. It was designed for dual operation precisely because solo use was unsustainable, even for a human. Through the dust and smoke, Marcus could see the Vrask forces regrouping. They were preparing for another assault, possibly the final one. "Whatever happens," Marcus said to Halt and Gren, "it has been an honor fighting beside you." Halt's expression softened slightly. "The honor is ours, human," he said. "You have shown us that strength alone does not make a warrior. It is how you use that strength that matters." Gren added quietly, "And when you use it to protect your companions, that makes you more than a warrior. Makes you family." The words settled over Marcus like a weight. Family. He had joined the Convergence seeking employment. He had found something far more valuable. The Vrask began their advance. Marcus stood one more time, lifted the Thundermaul one more time, ready to fight one more time. The Vrask final assault came at dawn. The orange sun of Theta 7 rose over the mining facility, painting the battlefield in shades of copper and blood. Marcus had spent the night in fitful rest, his body too exhausted to do anything but collapse against the wall. Halt and Gren had taken watch shifts, letting him sleep. When the alarm sounded, Marcus woke to find medical patches covering most of his exposed skin, and a hydration pack attached to his armor. "Compliments of the medical team," Gren explained. "They said you would refuse to go to the aid station, so they brought the aid station to you." Marcus tested his arms. The medical patches had worked wonders. He was still sore and tired, but functional. The Thundermaul leaned where he had left it, waiting. Through the morning haze, the Vrask army advanced. They had committed everything to this assault. Heavy armor, mobile artillery, shock troops in. Dense formations. Captain Sorda's voice came through on all channels. "This is their final push," she said. "They are betting everything on breaking our line. If we hold for 2 hours, their supply lines will force a retreat. 2 hours, people. Hold for 2 hours. 2 hours sounded impossible. Marcus picked up the Thundermaul. His hands knew the weapon's weight and balance now. It had become familiar through combat. The Vrask opened with artillery bombardment. The walls shook. Sections of defensive barrier collapsed. Automated turrets were destroyed in the opening minutes. Then the infantry charge began. Marcus took his position. Halt on his left, Gren on his right. 3 warriors against an army. We use the rotation strategy, Halt said. Marcus strikes for 30 seconds, then falls back. Gren and I cover while he recovers. Then we repeat. Plan. Burst engagement to conserve strength. Marcus nodded agreement. The Vrask hit their section of wall like a tidal wave. Marcus swung the Thundermaul in a devastating arc. Raiders went down in broken heaps. He struck again and again for exactly 30 seconds. Then he fell back. Halt and Gren stepped forward, their weapons blazing. They held the gap Marcus had created. Marcus caught his breath, flexed his aching hands, prepared for the next rotation. Switch, Halt called. Marcus stepped forward. Thundermaul rose and fell. 30 seconds of destruction. Then back again. The rotation continued. It worked. Not perfectly, but well enough. The Vrask could not break through their section. Other parts of the defensive line were not so fortunate. Marcus could see gaps opening where the Vrask had overwhelmed defenders. Captain Sorna was moving reserves to plug the holes. But reserves were running low. We need to do more, Marcus said during one of his rest rotations. This section is holding, but the line is failing elsewhere. Gren checked his weapons ammunition counter. We are low on power cells, he reported. Maybe 20 minutes of sustained fire left. After that, it is just us and whatever melee weapons we have. Marcus looked at the Thundermaul. An idea formed. It was risky and possibly stupid, but desperate times called for desperate measures. What if we take the fight to them? Marcus suggested. Instead of waiting for them to break through, we break their formation before it reaches the wall. Halt stared at him. You want to charge into a Vrask army? The Krovan asked. Not alone, Marcus said. The three of us. We push forward, break their assault momentum, then fall back before they can surround us. Gren considered the proposal. It could work once, he said slowly. Maybe twice if we are lucky and fast. But it is incredibly dangerous. Everything about this situation is dangerous, Marcus pointed out. Halt's expression shifted from skepticism to something that might have been respect. You propose we abandon defensive position and attack, he said. Yes, Marcus confirmed. We become the tip of the spear instead of the wall. The two Krovan looked at each other. Some unspoken communication passed between them. We will need Captain's approval, Gren said. Halt was already on the comm. He explained Marcus's plan in quick, efficient terms. There was a pause. Then Captain Sorna's voice came through. Approved, she said. But if you die out there, I will be very disappointed in all three of you. Marcus hefted the Thundermaul. Ready? He asked. Ready, Halt and Gren replied in unison. They went over the wall. 3 warriors charging into an army. Marcus led because he had the Thundermaul. Halt and Gren flanked him, their weapons providing covering fire. The Vrask were so focused on breaching the wall that the sudden counterattack caught them completely off guard. Marcus swung the Thundermaul in wide arcs. Each strike sent multiple raiders flying. The weapon's mass and momentum made it perfect for breaking formations. He did not try for precision. He aimed for chaos. Halt called out priority targets. Officers at 10 o'clock. Marcus adjusted his charge. The Thundermaul caught a Vrask commander and 2 bodyguards in one devastating strike. The nearby raiders hesitated, their coordination disrupted. Gren shouted, Artillery team setting up at 2 o'clock. Marcus changed direction. The piledriver function shattered the artillery piece and scattered. Its crew. They fought for exactly 2 minutes. Then they ran back to the wall. Vrask plasma fire chased them, but Halt and Gren's zigzag pattern made targeting difficult. They dove back over the wall just as enemy fire intensified. Again, Captain Sorna ordered. She had seen what they accomplished. 2 minutes of chaos had disrupted an entire assault wave. It bought the defensive line precious time. Marcus and the Krovan went over the wall again, and again, and again. Each charge broke Vrask momentum. Each retreat gave Marcus time to recover. The rotations became a rhythm. Charge, strike, retreat. Charge, strike, retreat. The Vrask began to adapt. They tried to anticipate the charges. They set up ambushes. But Hult's tactical awareness always found the weak points. Gren's covering fire always created escape routes. Marcus's Thundermaul always delivered. Strikes needed. 1 hour passed. The Vrask assault began to lose coordination. Their formations were shattered. Their command structure was disrupted. Casualties mounted on both sides. Marcus's armor was scored with plasma burns. Hult was limping from a kinetic round impact. Gren's left arm hung useless, damaged by shrapnel. But they kept fighting. 90 minutes. The Vrask pulled back slightly. Not a retreat, but a pause to regroup. Marcus leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. The Thundermaul felt like it weighed 1,000 kilograms now. Every muscle in his body screamed. "Can you make one more charge?" Hult asked. His voice was strained with pain, but determined. Marcus looked at the Krovan warrior. Hult's armor was cracked. His skin was burned, but his eyes were still fierce. "Yes," Marcus said. "One more." "Hand. P. I am almost out of ammunition," he reported. "Then we make it count," Hult said. They prepared for what might be their final charge. But before they could move, the Vrask army began to retreat. Not a tactical withdrawal, a full retreat. Their supply lines had collapsed. 2 hours had passed. The defense had held. Cheers erupted along the defensive line. Warriors from a dozen species celebrated survival. Marcus sat down hard. The Thundermaul dropped from his nerveless fingers. He had nothing left. Hult and Gren sat beside him, 3 warriors too exhausted to celebrate, too tired to do anything but breathe. Captain Sorna appeared, miraculously uninjured despite commanding from the front lines. "Exceptional work," she said. "All 3 of you." She looked at the Thundermaul lying in the dust. "I believe we need to discuss permanent weapon assignments." "Captain," Hult said. Marcus expected the Krovan to demand the weapon back. They had proven in battle that dual operation had advantages. But Hult surprised him. "The Thundermaul has found a new wielder," Hult said. "Marcus has earned it through combat." Gren nodded agreement. "We cannot match what he accomplished today." Marcus forced himself to sit up straighter. "No," he said. Both Krovan turned to look at him. "The weapon is yours," Marcus continued. "You have history with it, tactics built around it, a partnership that has survived 6 campaigns. I just borrowed it for 1 battle." "You did more than borrow it," Hult said. "You carried it like luggage across a battlefield and used it to save this entire facility." Marcus managed a tired smile. "I have a different proposal," he said. "What if the Thundermaul officially stays assigned to you, but when missions require it, I serve as the transport specialist?" "Transport specialist?" Gren asked. "I haul it into position," Marcus explained. "Like luggage, as everyone keeps saying. Then whoever is tactically optimal in that moment wields it. Sometimes that will be you as a dual operator team. Sometimes that will be me, solo. We adapt based on the mission." Hult and Gren exchanged glances. "A weapon shared between warriors," Hult said slowly. "It is unconventional." "We are an unconventional crew," Captain Sorna pointed out. "I like the proposal," Gren said. "It honors our history with the weapon, while acknowledging Marcus's capability." "Agreed," Hult said. He extended one massive hand to Marcus. Marcus gripped it. The handshake sealed the arrangement. Captain Sorna nodded approvingly. "Then it is settled," she said. "The Thundermaul will be listed as a shared asset. Hult and Gren as primary operators. Marcus Webb as transport and secondary operator." She paused, then added with a slight smile, "I will also be updating the Galactic Mercenary Guild's human species classification." "From medium strength to what?" Marcus asked. "To a new category I am creating," Sorna said. "Fucking terrifying." Despite their exhaustion, all 3 warriors laughed. The sound carried across the battlefield. A sound of survival, of victory, of warriors who had found something more valuable than individual glory. They had found brotherhood. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood in the cargo bay of the Convergence. The ship was approaching their next contract, a peacekeeping mission on a station in disputed territory. The Thunder Maul leaned against the wall. Marcus walked over and lifted it onto his shoulder. No strain now, just familiar weight. Behind him, Hult and Gren approached with their own equipment. "Deployment?" Hult asked. "Ready," Marcus confirmed. The 3 warriors walked together toward the dropship, one human carrying a weapon designed for 2 heavy worlders, like luggage, just hauling it to the next battle, where they would fight together, as family. And across the galaxy, other mercenary crews would hear the story. The story of the human who treated a dual-operator Warhammer like luggage, and the 2 Krovan warriors who learned that strength shared is strength multiplied. The legend was just beginning.